Hi guys, this is Coach Amber from Wreck-It Volleyball and Fistball Club. Today we're going to be talking about fistball running plays, and we're specifically going to be talking about running plays when our team is out of systems. So in this video we're going to discuss different scenarios where either a front player takes the first ball, or the setter takes the first ball, or a back player shanks the ball. And the reason why we want to discuss this is because the cool thing about this sport is that you're still capable of running certain plays. You just need to make certain adjustments and understand what to do when a certain thing happens. So the first scenario we're going to talk about is if a striker takes the first ball. So a lot of our plays really do rely on having a back player taking the first ball. So we do understand that once a team notices that when they send a ball to one of the strikers, it's going to limit us very much on what plays we're able to run. But there are certain things that you can do to combat that where you don't feel very powerless when they figure that out. So the first thing is, let's say that the other team hits or strikes or serves at one of our strikers. The first option is that the setter becomes a striker and then the back player sets. So this is probably the best option that we have, and the main reason is because the setter is already very close to the net, which means that they can set up more of the options for striking versus if a back player were to run up. So if the back player is coming up, then typically you may want to have it that your pick as a striker, that the first ball would be in the B zone, which would be somewhere around this area right here. That's so when the person is running up from back here or back here, they're actually able to set the ball. Versus if you were to put it in the A zone, it may be really, really far for them, and it may be too far for them to actually be able to set it. So this is definitely a play where if my left side striker were to take it, they don't want to push it too close to the 3-meter line, because then the back player may struggle to actually get under the ball and conserve the energy, as well as if they were to set it and it were a direct set, you may need to move the lineup around because they're going to have to run almost 25 meters to get back into their defensive positioning. The next option, if the front striker takes the ball, is the back player becomes the second striker. Again, this is not as ideal because then they are going to struggle to get back to the back part of the field. And especially if you are running a play, let's say you're running a tandem or an X play or something like that, they are going to need to be able to fake or sell a strike, which means that they will be at the net at some point, which means that they are going to have to run over 25 meters to get back. So again, this is not the most ideal situation. We do want to have the option, but it's not ideal. The next is doing a one striker location play. So basically what that means is, let's say the left side striker takes the first ball, the setter is going to set the ball, and then basically what you're going to do is then you're going to tell your striker where you're going to set the ball. So is it going in the blue zone, white zone, or red zone, so then they can get prepared to actually try to go to that ball. So the nice thing with that is that if you're running this play with a one striker location play, you can do it off of a direct set as well. So basically what you would do is, if the ball is coming from the left side striker, and let's say it comes in between the white and the blue zone, then the right side striker can transition around, or this way, it doesn't really matter. And then the setter can say blue or white, so then they can kind of have an idea of where the ball is going, so then they have an easier time striking it. Again, this is also based on where the ball bounces, so you do want to communicate with your setter so you know where the ball is going, but the more communication you have, the easier it is for you to actually go to that ball and be able to strike off of an out-of-system play. Another example of an out-of-system play is if the setter takes the first ball. This is really common, especially if the opponent thinks that your team doesn't have a backup setter or somebody that's as good as your setter. So the first thing that typically happens is the back players, one of them is a distinguished backup setter, meaning that the back player is going to run up, they are going to be the one running the play, and the setter can still, if they want to, still distinguish what play it is, but the back players really should know what play that they're going to run. And even though they're back players, they should still have a good idea of some of the plays, because again, if the only person who knows the plays is the setter and then the strikers are the only ones who know how to run the routes, if a back player does not take the time to learn those routes, if they're a backup setter, then it really does limit how much of an offensive opponent we are to the other team. And we want to be as strategic as possible. So even though you're a back player, you still should take the time to learn at least 2 or 3 different plays, so then your teammates know what to run, so it's not just traditional cookie cutter fistball anymore. The other traditional thing that happens is, again, one striker only, and the right side is the setter. You can also have a back player come up, but again, that is not the best option because then they have to run all the way back. So if you do have the right side striking, then again, this is a location play. So based on the location of where the ball is, the setter could have the ability to control where they're trying to put the ball. And when they pick the ball, then they can put it into a certain location to help start the offense. So if a setter takes this first ball and we have the right side striker as the setter, that means that we can run a direct set a lot easier than if we have a back player coming up. So let's say the right side is coming and the left side is coming, then if the setter decides that they're going to pass the ball here or pass the ball here, they are now starting to set up the offense where they're already choosing what option is going to happen based on where they pick the ball. So again, if they pick the ball over here, the left side can also take the ball on 2. The right side could be the setter. The left side could also be the setter. So there's a lot of options if the setter has control over that first ball, which sometimes they may not, but just know that you do have a lot of options if the setter is taking the first ball. Lastly, if a back row player shanks a ball to a sideline, so let's say a back row player takes it, our setter's here, we have a right side here and a left side here, and this player is diving for a ball and it goes to this sideline, which is a really hard angle. It's really difficult for our setter. So a setter may call for help, and they're going to have a striker as the setter, and then the setter then can become a striker. So if the ball is coming here, the left side doesn't have to waste all that energy coming into the field because we still have a setter that is also a striking option. So then the setter could be the player that comes closer, and then the left side only has to come midfield for a play similar to the lizard play that we have in one of our videos. So definitely watch that because it's a really cool play. So then from here, then the setter can run a quick play here. They can also turn, they can go deep with it, and they're not trying as hard. Or the right side can push the ball where the left side is striking, and again, they have a bunch of different spots that they can hit to depending on what arm they're hitting with. So it's really good to utilize making sure that you have 2 hitters at all times, and if the setter knows how to strike, then now you're a very heavy offensive team. Another option is if the back player shanks a ball, a striker will set, and then, the setter will set, and then the striker will do a candy cane. So in this scenario, the ball comes over here. So let's say it's passed over here. There's a right side, and then a setter, and then a left side. So the player will run a candy cane, which is where the right side will come around the setter. So the setter is going to be here, and then a right side would be here. Then this is also setting up a lizard play but it is the setter and the right side flip-flopping. So it starts off with a candy cane, but then the left side striker can move based on wherever they want to go. So again, this is a really important play that you want to be able to run, and you want to make sure that when you're playing, even if the back players are not the ones who are taking the first ball, or if they're making a lot of errors, there's still a lot of adjustments that you can make to maximize your ability to run plays. Because remember, plays are about speeding up the tempo, it's about deceiving the other team, and it's also about moving the ball and the set location to change up the defensive movements. So if you can do one of those three things every single time you set, regardless of where the pass is, then you're doing a really good job maximizing your ability as a setter and a striker. So thank you so much for watching, and keep watching our series. Bye!